That's your job.
Coach Ferentz, with the year under Tim Lester's belt, how do you see improvements in quarterback comfortability, timing, and overall offensive prowess as it comes into this season?
Ironically, none of our top 3 quarterbacks were here last fall, so they're all going through the same thing. But for the overall group, for the overall offense, everybody, it's a lot more fluid now because it was all new a year ago. I said earlier, I've never in my career been involved in a West Coast offense. Certainly knew about in the NFL. It's a very different offense in terms of communications. It's very wordy, a lot of verbiage. And I've always been in systems where it's as concise as possible. So that was an exchange, but it was a bigger exchange for me because I have a bigger knowledge base. Our players took to it real easily. But everything's a lot more fluid now than it was certainly a year ago. Quarterbacks are doing just fine with it.
Where do you feel like cornerback competition at this point? How do you corner, not quarter?
Oh, corner?
Corner,
yes.
Corner. Where do you feel like the competition's at in terms of depth and starting spots?
Eager to see, really anxious to see. I think, first thing, the 2 guys that played the most, TJ and Deshaun, both took big steps in the spring. They've played, but they were surviving. And I don't mean it maybe in those terms, but they're capable of doing better, hopefully down the road. And that's part of the growth process. And really saw them start to take those strides and have some of the confidence that you hope a guy has this spring. So I think they both improved, and they're really good prospective guys. And I've got a lot of love for what Jalen Watson does. I think he saw him do things on special teams that are really hard to do. I'm thinking about one particular punt. He was blocking their gunner right in front of our bench, and he did a really nice job. And that's really hard to do. I think about Dallas Clark blocking as our center on the kick return team 25 years ago. But when you see guys do some things on special teams, you can easily see that carrying over to what they're going to do in their roles. And so he'll be in the middle of it. And then we brought Shaheed in. I think he'll be in the competition. And so I described the big podium. I think we've got a lot of positions right now. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. And that's a great thing about having the month of August. We've got a month to evaluate and see where guys are at, because it'll look different than it did in April. And, I think it wouldn't shock me, even in September, we'll see more of that as we go. Excuse me.
Kirk, you mentioned you started 1-10, 2-18. Pretty impressive, by the way.
Almost perfect.
Almost perfect.
Not quite. And the one was like, well, actually both of them were flukes. Northern Illinois ran back a block kick. LeVar did, I think, was. And Coach said, nice, they're special teams guy, right? And then the Michigan State game, they probably had like 490 yards. I think we had 120. Ran back a kick, and Casper ran one of those screens, perimeter screens where you can't, have to block anybody. And so we were good at that, not blocking guys. And he caught the ball and scored. And so it was really kind of a fluke win. The win number 3 was like a legitimate win.
So you should have started 0-20.
Could have, could have. Close.
Could anybody in today's environment survive that? No.
Tony Dungy had a quote or a tweet somewhere. I think it was this past offseason, or maybe it was the last one, but because the NFL firing season. I know Chuck Noll history pretty well. He got off to an auspicious beginning in his career. Tom Landry, a lot of coaches did back in the day, and those guys wanted to survive. I'm not sure Coach K would have survived in today's world, right? So it just, there should be a lesson learned, but there's not going to be, because we're all so impatient.
Do you think coaches change the way they may do things because they know they don't have the runway that maybe you and other coaches did,
Yeah, like if I was just starting right now, I'd probably be looking at the world a little bit differently than I did back then. Like 2 things. Number one, I never had to be a head coach, so it wasn't like, believe me, I wanted us to be successful, and I wanted to be successful, but like you do in anything you do, but like if it didn't work out, it was not going to end my life.
Right.
I was perfectly happy being a position coach. But if that's what your total ambition is, then it'd probably make you do some stuff that maybe. So at least at that point, I was confident enough not to get. I wasn't going to start doing stupid stuff just to try to get to next week. I wasn't in the mood to do that.
Kirk, you saw the Jim Knowles defense the past couple of years at Ohio State. Now that he's at Penn State, what makes that system difficult to go up against, and what do you think he can do with what Penn State has done in terms of their talent on defense?
Yeah, I mean, they've obviously been pretty good on defense, regardless. Like, you know, they've really, and again, I'll go back to when I was a kid, or fast forward, they typically have really good players, and they play well. So the only thing I would say, I've got tremendous respect for Coach Knowles. I thought that was a great hire. Not that I'm a judge or evaluator, but when he went to Oklahoma State, you know, Ryan went to Oklahoma State and plucked him out of there. To me, it seemed like a really smart hire, and then, you know, watching them work the way they did, yeah, they're really good on defense. It's a tough scheme, a good scheme. And they've had good players, but those guys play hard and they're really sound. They don't give you anything easy, and my guess is that's what Penn State will look like next year too, same way. And that's coaching, regardless of what you're, you know, 3-man, 4-man, blitz a lot, don't blitz a lot, but they don't give you easy stuff. And it's, if you got good players that play hard and they're sound, which I'm assuming that's what we'll see next year at Penn State.
Kirk, talking a little bit more
another
about
a never-ending portal question, but I guess it's impacted you guys some, but some schools a lot during bowl season. And I heard Jake Dickert, Wake Forest, talking about that this week because he's at Washington State. His team had really been wiped out in the bowl games a few times the last few years. And I asked him, what about the portal? And he said he was sort of like it to be wait till January.
Yeah.
Because it seems having that early portal just really wreaks havoc in the bowl season. Any thoughts? Would you prefer
Yeah, it's really
push
complex, and we went back and forth in our league meetings in May. What we came up with was a second window period, and basically our concept was like pick 6 weeks, roughly April to mid-May, and every school could pick 2 weeks they wanted out of there, so you could be fluid with your. The one big takeaway I had coming out of that meeting, it's different than the NFL, because in the NFL everybody's got the same calendar. In college, we have a lot of conference schools that have their own quarters, tries, whatever they call them. So their academic calendar is way different than ours. So I grew a new appreciation for the challenges they have versus us. And then you got the other teams that are still playing like in first week, second week of January. Presents challenges too, but I think my takeaway is there's no perfect answer. So let smarter people figure it out, but there's no perfect answer.
You've been around and coached and developed so many great quarterbacks over the years, and you've faced so many over the years as well. In the Big Ten, what makes for a good quarterback, and how is that maybe even different from other leagues, considering weather and all that type of stuff?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think, you know, football's football, and I mean, just think about the West Coast teams in our league. They still got to come to the Midwest now, which back in the 80s, I always said, you know, they should play the Rose Bowl.